I usually give my thoughts on the whole episode at the end, but I gotta make one point now, otherwise I'm gonna go insane trying to hold it in. This is another episode that doesn't feel like a final draft. There's a lot of dialogue that just doesn't work at all. I'll be able to point it out now that I've said this. I also didn't put the pieces together until last week, but fusion cuisine is a play on the idea of serving food from different cultures at one restaurant. Like if you've combined Vietnamese and Japanese food and had pho ramen, or Italian and Mexican food and made a taco pizza. Damn, I'm hungry. Steven's graduated from a Nintendo 64 to a GameCube. And what is that? Wind Waker and Animal Crossing? Pretty safe picks, I think. Connie's also in her original outfit that she was in back in Bubble Buddies.
How come you can't watch this show at home?
My mom says this doesn't represent a real emergency room.
Okay, we're gonna meet Connie's parents in this episode. I have a bit of a gripe with how the show sets up her parents. She tells the audience that they're strict and controlling like this, but we see kind of the opposite. In her first episode, she's unsupervised on the beach. She seems to come to Beach City without anyone escorting her. In Lion 2, she seemed to go home all beat up and burned from the robot shooty thing. And this episode puts a spotlight on this one. She doesn't have lenses in her glasses anymore since an indirect kiss. And her parents don't seem to notice these things. The show seems to be showing and telling us two conflicting things about her parents. I heard a good phrase for this kind of thing. It's called narrative gaslighting.
The children are playing swords. Sorry, playing with swords. They're bleeding. Oh no, they are dead. Don't call again.
Alright, if people remember this episode, it's for one of two things. This Garnet scene and Alexandrite. This joke is awesome. It's one of Garnet's most iconic scenes and probably my favorite scene in the episode. Steven's making this horrendous cheeseball cake, which doesn't seem to get referenced in any way. I think it's just there to give him something visually interesting to do while he's on the phone.
Sure, they make stuff blow up sometimes, but that's because they're magic, not radioactive.
There is one crystal gem who I know for sure is actually radioactive, and that's bismuth, but we haven't gotten to her yet.
My parents think you live with your mother and father.
But none of that is true. You never told your mom and dad about the crystal gems?
No, and it has to stay that way.
Connie is not one of my favorite characters, and one of the reasons is here. She just lies a lot. It's probably only to her parents, but still. It's another point on narrative gaslighting. The show tries to tell you that Connie is a smart character who learns fast and reads a lot of books, but she makes these dumb decisions like lying to her parents about Steven. Huh? How did Greg's hair do that? That was fucking awesome.
We get all the energy we need from our gems, and while our human constructs are capable of eating, I find it very uncomfortable.
Human constructs. So I was pretty close when I said gems aren't too different from golems. Also, gems' physical forms are made to look like humans specifically? Or is this a symptom of this episode having rough draft dialogue?
You keep us safe by scaring off the bad guys, but you're not the best conversationalist. Amethyst, you would be a super fun mom. Can moms be gross? Pearl, you're always worried about me. You teach me lots of stuff. You're approachable, and you're totally not gross. But you can't eat dinner.
Here's a real point on the rough writing, though. I'm not convinced by any of Steven's cons to bring each gem. If it was up to me, I'd bring Pearl. Who cares if she doesn't eat? I get the idea of just bringing one of them would be lying by omission, but that should have been his actual point. Bringing Alexandrite doesn't solve the problem of Garnet being quiet and Amethyst being a slob and Pearl not willing to eat. So this scene ultimately feels like wasted time.
Steven, you know we only fuse in deadly situations.
I'm still holding that against you. Not only is Pearl the only one who ever says this, but she blatantly goes against it in the next season. Okay, check out where this restaurant is. You can see the lighthouse in this shot, and in this shot, the restaurant is right at the base of the water tower. You can also see that bay cave I mentioned in last episode. I just don't understand why Alexandrite is coming from this direction. If they did their fusion dance behind these rocks, how do they even get there without the Maheshorns noticing them? Again, rough draft symptoms. It seems like the writers didn't consider any of this. Also, what happened to Funland? This exact spot is where Funland is supposed to be, I think. It's not in any of the shots looking both directions on the beach. That makes me question the location of Funland more than the location of this restaurant, though. The restaurant is right behind the second biggest landmark in Beach City. Where does the green hair come from? Did Pearl's outfit get turned into Alexandrite's hair? Okay, I just looked it up and apparently real Alexandrite changes colors depending on how the light hits it, between purple and green. Nobody thought they would get real gemology facts on gemology today.
So tell me, how did you two meet?
Huh?
The Maheshorn's reactions to Alexandrite is weirdly tame. This is not how I would behave if I suddenly found out that 6-armed giants are real. How the fuck is the first thing that they ask about is how they met? How is it not, holy fucking shit baskets, I didn't know giants were real?
What do we say about heads on the table?
I made this point in Crystal Sins all those years ago, but Connie's parents have to say something about heads on the table? Does this happen often?
Things are going pretty good so far, huh?
Steven, are you kidding me? What is this thing that you brought to dinner?
I'm siding with Steven on this one. Connie seems to be the only one freaking out and saying this isn't going well, at least outwardly. What do kids say now? She's crashing out? And for what? Nothing's happened yet. And her parents seem to be taking the fact that giants exist pretty well.
All that stuff you told your parents about my family. You're just ashamed of me.
Oh, whatever, Steven. Let's just focus on getting through the evening.
Here's another point on rough writing. This conflict never really gets a resolution. I do a lot of critiquing, but I notice I don't offer solutions enough, so here's one that would improve this scene. Instead of Connie just saying, okay, whatever, and leaving, why not have Steven say, if you want to keep up the lie, you gotta at least play along. I think that would connect this scene and the next one pretty nicely. This specific waiter doesn't ever appear again, but his design gets reused for a character in Mr. Greg. Unless it's the same guy who moved from here to Empire City.
Steven was telling me that on his mom's apple farm, they're bioengineering a Gala-Fuji hybrid.
Okay, best and worst variety of apples, go. My best is Honeycrisp and worst is Red Delicious, no contest. When Alexandrite's face splits apart, you can see her teeth inside. And in the next shot, for like 2 frames, you can see that Garnet almost splits apart into Ruby and Sapphire.
You don't know how horrified I was when that Drek nearly fell into our mouths.
Pearl refusing to eat is the sole reason Alexandrite fell apart. Also, I find it interesting how Pearl refers to Alexandrite as first-person plural. Usually, gems and fusions talk about each other as if they are completely separate characters. I praised that in previous episodes, and it feels kinda jarring now that it's missing.
I knew I should have trusted my bad feelings about this new friend of yours, but I never thought I wouldn't be able to trust my own daughter.
What the fuck? There's a big jump you have to make from strict parent to straight up mean parent. Connie's mom is a bitch for this, goddamn. Also, for like 2 frames, Connie's eyes are transparent for some reason. Half moon. People always say moon continuity is an overanalyzing Avatar bit, but it's not a bit. Lack of moon continuity transcends all media. People have been analyzing moon continuity since they aired the Apollo landings. I'm just keeping up the tradition.
I'm sorry I messed everything up. I wish there was a way we could just hang out without having to worry about stuff.
Steven, let's just hop on a bus and live somewhere else without telling anyone.
That's a great idea!
You can't see it, but I'm face palming. I believe this one exchange is the worst written thing in the whole show. You know what? No, I'll offer a fix again. Steven should have said, I'm sure if we just go back and tell the truth, the whole truth, your parents would understand. Followed by Connie saying, I don't think I can face my parents after this. And then the bus shows up and she gets on, and Steven follows. I said it before, but someday I want to do a full rewrite of this show.
Steven!
This is the only time in the show we get to hear Alexandrite's theme, which totally sucks because it's like 20 seconds long. I wish they had a longer version for one of her later appearances.
You could have gotten yourselves hurt.
Or gotten mangled in traffic.
Or thrown in prison.
If this is the first place where Amethyst's mind goes, I guarantee she's been in and out of prison at least a few times throughout history. Knowing her, she'd probably escaped a few times and served full sentences a few times. That's just headcanon stuff though, don't listen to me.
You are in very big trouble, and we have no choice but to punish you.
But
No dinner for 1,000 years.
Okay, people remember this episode for 3 things. Why does this episode have to have the worst line but also some of the best lines? How does that even happen?
But you will lose your TV privileges for 1,000 years.
Steven being grounded from TV is another line of continuity that impacts later episodes. Mainly that Steven does a lot of reading for entertainment. Oh fuck, American flag spotted! You do not realize how much I've been looking for one of these in the background. This flag has only 6 stars and 7 stripes, but I chalk it up to being a lower detailed background prop.
That 1,000 years of no dinner bit was pretty funny.
All comedy is derived from fear.
Alright, I can see why Steven didn't bring Garnet by herself. For the episode that introduces Alexandrite, it's a horribly underwhelming one. I wouldn't call this episode bad, just underwhelming. This is probably the worst introduction to a fusion in the whole show. She doesn't do anything, just picks up a bus. In fact, I think Alexandrite's second appearance all the way in season 3 would be a much better introduction. Actually, the more I think about it, the more I want to call this episode filler. If you decide to skip it, all you would miss is characters sitting around. And like I said, you would get a much better introduction to Alexandrite in season 3. This is one that I sometimes skip on rewatches. But if you want to see new episodes a week before they premiere on YouTube, you can subscribe to my Patreon for just a couple bucks. The link is in the description as always. Shoutouts to my journeyman patrons, Anri Wickers, Boomblorp, Cinderant, Scala LD, and the Tamara. Also shoutouts to these apprentice patrons. Speaking of filler, next episode is Garnet's Universe. Finally, some good fucking filler.